Unfortunately, it was at this point that the camera just broke. After it came back from repair, it had a fault again, so it went away to be repaired, but by the time I finally got it back, I'd sort of lost interest, because I just realised the film wasn't going to get finished. Most of what you're seeing here are outtakes from the original script, which were going to be cut out anyway. It was all filmed in the loft space at my house. It was all done on like a tabletop with a painted background. These cliffs you see were just made of tin foil, and the laser effects are light being reflected into the camera lens from a box attached to the camera. Most of the models were just pulled along with wires, apart from the tanks at the end, which were on battery power. Lots of little tricks like this one, which is just a photograph on a sheet of glass being moved. Of course the explosions were quite good, but sadly the camera just couldn't go fast enough to slow them down. You have to film things slow to give them scale, but I could only get up to like double speed, so most of these explosions don't actually explode, they just tend to burn. My dad in the garage on a partial set which was made of hardboard. Unfortunately the set just wasn't big enough, so I had to go to miniature to get the scale. And my friend in a spacesuit, which was actually filmed outside at night with a series of partial sets. Unfortunately, a lot of things didn't quite work the way I wanted them to, so it was usually a bit of a compromise just getting them to function at all.
Well, I've been up into the loft to see what I've got left, and after 27 years the answer is not a great deal. Unfortunately, the hero's main vehicle has disintegrated over the years. This is because it was mostly just made of very thin plastic sheeting, so there was no great strength there. This was one of my favourite designs from the film. I think it was slightly based on the Y-Wing fighter from Star Wars. I think a lot of the things in the production were made from plastic sheet or balsa wood. This particular vehicle, the Lander, was only ever finished on one side facing the camera. I quickly learned to stop making bits that you can't actually see. The gun, this was a mixture of balsa wood and plastic sheeting. I think many of you might recognise it from Space 1999. It was originally a stun gun, which I'd made out of balsa wood as a replica, and then I just clad it all up in plastic and kit parts. I think that was a top off a shampoo bottle. The tank has lasted quite well. This is essentially just a plasticard shell that fits over an old tank kit. The wires for the motors feed in through the bottom, and then there were a lot more wires going underneath to the guns on top to control them. And then there were more wires going to the explosive charges, so it all got very complicated in the end. But apart from that, there's not a lot left, except for my hero. The figure is essentially a 12-inch Action Man doll, dressed up in a nice costume that I had to design. The trick here, of course, was whatever I designed had to match perfectly to the full-size costume, so that's why everything is sort of done in flat panels. You know, I think I've got a really good idea for a sequel. Are you up for it?